Well, hey there, welcome to day 3 of the Design a Modern Triangle Challenge. Before we get started, I want to start off with a story. So you remember the feeling you get, let's say you get a present, and when you go to unwrap the present, you feel such anticipation because you can't wait to see what it is. So today we are essentially unwrapping our modern triangle, and we're seeing what your modern triangle looks like as a tessellated hexagon. And maybe it's not quite as exciting as getting a present, but it is a little bit exciting because we're going to see how your design looks. It's going to be fun. All right, so in this lesson, you'll be expanding your modern triangle into the hexagon, and you'll be seeing how your triangle looks as a tessellated hexagon. So I'm going to walk you through step by step. And then you'll be able to evaluate whether your triangle looks good or doesn't look good as a tessellated hexagon. And really, probably because of the way that you designed your triangle, it's probably going to look great. But you'll be able to decide for yourself, of course. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera to my overhead and I'm going to walk you through the process. When I'm done walking you through the process, we're going to come back face to face and we're going to talk about 2 different styles of triangle designs. So for this step, you'll need your triangle that you designed in day 2. You'll need your ruler so you can figure out where all these markings are going to go on the blank triangles. You'll definitely want to have a pencil, and you might want to have a post-it notes just in case you forget those measurements. I don't know, sometimes it happens, especially if you're like me and you're watching Netflix and having a glass of wine or 2. You do you though. Okay, so what we're going to do is, so this is the triangle I designed from day 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the triangle step by step. So triangle by triangle. So this has the modern triangle design on it. I'm going to translate this modern triangle over to this blank triangle. And then I'm going to keep expanding until we fill up the entire hexagon. So personally for me, I found that the easiest way to do this is to keep only 2 triangles of my hexagon showing. So on my table right now, I've got everything folded back, so only 2 triangles are visible. So my modern triangle, of course, is on the left over here, and then I've got my blank triangle. So I'm going to work blank triangle to blank triangle until I fill all the blank triangles with my modern triangle. So let's get going. So if you haven't done your measurements yet, you're going to want to make sure that you measure where your dots are falling. So I'm going to go ahead and record those. So for the distance between the point to this line here is 1 inch. So I'm just going to record that so I remember and that you can see and you know what measurement I'm talking about. So I've got 1 inch there, and then this point kind of imaginary now because we erased it in day 2, but that is 1 inch as well. And then remember we divided this triangle into thirds, and these points were 1.5 inches away from the tip. So here's the 0, here's the 1.5 inches. So those are the measurements that I'm working with, and this just helps me remember. You might not need it. Again, if you're watching Netflix and drinking wine, you might need it. Okay, so I'm just going to translate this design over here. I'm going to work step by step. So here's my 1.5 inches. Here's my 1.5 inches there. So there's those points on the base. I already have this point measured, so I'm going to add in my dot over here. And this is 1 inch away from the tip. So there's this dot 1 inch away from the tip. So now I have my design scaffold here. I can go ahead and connect the dots on this new triangle. So from tip to base, tip to base, and then side to side, and side to side. Okay, so I've got my modern triangle design on here, and now I can erase what I don't need. So erase that, and then I'm going to erase everything in here. Okay, so with this design, I have a couple different design choices because I can either erase this line or I can erase this line. So I'm going to come back to this triangle once I have all my triangles filled in, because I might want to do something different. And so I want to make sure I see all my options. So I'm going to wait on that. Okay, so I'm going to keep expanding. So I'm going to take my triangle over here and I'm going to put it over here using my measurements here. And the degree to which you have to rely on a Post-it pad to record your measurements is going to depend on the complexity of your block here. So as your block, maybe you're making a complex looking block and you're going to need to remember a lot of different measurements. So that'll be helpful there. Okay, so I'm going to put my dots along the base. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and then I'll put my dot over here on this side. And I have all my dots, so I'm going to go ahead and connect the dots now. So base to tip, base to tip. And then corner down here. So corner to point over here. And then corner to point over here. And then I can erase everything I'm not going to use. And as I was drawing, I was noticing that I wasn't really accurate with my points. So my lines were just a hair off, and my line down here was just a hair off. That's not really a big deal. I'm not going to be overly concerned with it. If I were going to make this into a foundation piecing pattern, then I might want to make the foundation more accurate. Okay, I've erased everything, and except for these two lines, because I might want to play with those designs, and I want to make that decision once I see the entire hexagon. All right, so at this point I have half of my hexagon all drawn out, and I still need to do the other half. I think you get the gist of where I'm going with this in terms of translating. So I'm going to speed up the tape now, speed up the video, the digital tape. Do we use tape anymore? I don't know. I'm going to speed up the video, and once I'm done, I will come back to you. Hey there, I'm back. So at this point you have your hexagon all drawn out. I have my hexagon all drawn out. There was a decision I wanted to wait on until I saw my entire hexagon. So that decision was, which line do I want to erase on my triangle? So just revisiting here. So on my modern triangle, I can decide to erase this line right here, or I can erase this line. But I wanted to wait. Oh, sorry, my ant friend. I wanted to wait until I saw the whole hexagon. And now that I see how the entire hexagon looks, I really like the way that this 3-pointed star, it's almost like, I don't know what you would call it, but I really like the way this is coming together as one shape. So I'm going to erase all the lines that are interrupting this shape. Okay, so I've erased everything there. So I have this shape here. And yeah, let me erase this one a little bit more clearly. Okay, so I've made the decision on which lines I wanted to erase. I'm going to darken my lines and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I've darkened up my hexagon, all the lines in the hexagon. Hopefully that makes it a little easier for you guys to see at home. All right, so at this point you have designed your modern triangle and you've designed your modern hexagon. Yay! I hope you love your modern triangle and I hope you love your modern hexagon. And I can't wait to see what you made. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So what I would love for you to do now is just take a look at your hexagon and just evaluate whether it looks good as a tessellated hexagon. And you can also evaluate whether it looks good as a standalone triangle. And your next step with your triangle and your hexagon is to color it. So that is day 4, that's coming up. Before I close out, I wanted to touch base on 2 different types of triangle designs. Okay, so in my opinion, there are 2 different types of triangle designs. One type of triangle design is a triangle design that looks great as a tessellation or looks great in combination with other of its kind to make those secondary patterns. So this is an example. You've seen a lot of examples inside this challenge of a triangle that looks really cool tessellated in a hexagon. To contrast that design, this is the second type of triangle designs, a triangle design that looks great as a standalone triangle or with just a plain border. So this is a block from my workshop, Design Improv with Triangles, and you can see this one might be a little confusing if we put it into tessellation. Right? So this looks super cool just as itself, but if we were to tessellate it, it might be confusing. Now, some triangles are going to look good as a tessellation or as a plain old triangle. But in general, there's triangles that work as a tessellation in a hexagon or a secondary pattern, or there's triangles that look great on their own, but might not work in a tessellation. So those are the 2 different types of triangle designs. And in general, with this strategy, you're going to be creating a lot of fun triangles that work really well in tessellation. So in general, the triangles from the Modern Triangle Quilts book, right there, those triangles look really cool as standalone triangles. So on the screen right now, right there, is the equilateral triangle sampler. This is the main quilt from Modern Triangle Quilts. And as you can see, these triangles look really cool as standalone triangles, but you can maybe tell there that the triangles don't all work in tessellation. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't work in tessellation. So this year for my Make Modern Triangles membership, I wanted to create a block of the month using the equilateral triangles from Modern Triangle Quilts, but I had a hard time finding many triangles that worked well to create secondary patterns and to create tessellation. So this over here, this is the Solstice block of the month. This is the block of the month for the Make Modern Triangles program, and all the quilt itself is made from different modern triangles, the equilateral modern triangles there, and you can see they're just tiled and tessellated in a way that creates really cool looking secondary designs. So as I went about designing that, I really ran into some problems finding enough triangles to play with. So personally, for me as a designer, this is the reason why I came up with these different triangles that I designed. And this is the reason why I came up with this strategy to create and design equilateral triangles that work well in tessellation. All right, now that you know the 2 different types of triangles, what type of triangle did you design? Does your triangle look great as a standalone triangle? Does your triangle look great tiled and tessellated in your hexagon? My guess is that it probably looks really cool as a standalone and as a tessellation just because of the strategy that we're using in this challenge. All right, in our next lesson, we are going to be talking color options and how those different color options will impact the final look of your triangle and your hexagon. So have your colored pencils or have your markers, maybe make a few copies of your hexagon or your triangle in case you want to play with the different color options. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye for now.